you want me to list them all?
No, I do not want you to list them all. But you know what?
It's a 10-minute show. It's going to go forever if I do.
Rob does a lot of this. Obviously, he does all the interviews, and he's the main host of all of these shows. But we don't really know a lot about him except for what he gets in when he interviews people. So I thought we would talk a little bit, get a little bit of background on what Rob did and kind of his, I don't want to say qualifications, but kind of what led him down to this path of being like this. So, I think it's pretty cool.
A leaky microwave.
And yes, and a lot of jazz, which probably did it. So
it was a constant drumming.
Absolutely. So, you know what, like Rob said, he is the co-owner. I'd say I hate to say main talent, but the main person who drives all of
I'd hate to say
Media.
that too, but
it's true. I mean, you and Martha strategize, but you are the implementer. You're the one who does.
She's more behind the scenes. I'm more up front. Yes,
you're more up front, so that's what you do. So, why don't you give everybody like a kind of a quick overview of some of your early stuff, what led up to coming back to Chicago and doing this? Because I know you did a lot. You were here, you were in other places, and you came back. So,
okay,
why don't you tell me some stuff?
Wow.
Okay, so I'll say
it's difficult because you want it like you go. Do I tell the whole story? Because that's boring.
Yeah, you're not gonna be there. So you were in school. You were in like acting and stuff, but you also were a musician, and you were like
well, if we go back to that, like when I was in high school, I was an actor.
Yes.
I was leading a lot of shows, and
cool.
That was kind of my thing. And then I also was in the jazz band, and I was always lead alto. And when I went to college the first time. I had to make a decision. I had to make a decision of music or acting because I didn't like musical theater.
And you chose music.
And I chose acting. But it's funny. I chose acting, did that for a semester, dropped out, stayed in the jazz band for 2 years. But then I became a professional actor. I did that for 12 years.
Right. And you did that here in Chicago and then also in Minneapolis, right?
And then we moved to Minneapolis. And while we were in Minneapolis, I soaked up a lot of work. I did well, but it was all like commercials, a little bit of film work, but that was kind of what I was doing. Then Martha got sick, and not to go into her whole story, but that's her story to tell.
Sure.
But she had gotten sick, and it was difficult. She said, "You know what? I think we should really move back to Chicago. I think I'm ready." And I thought, wow, I could have some help. And then we figured out what was going on.
Right.
And it changed the plan. And we said, well, we're going back and you're better. What are we going to do? And I said, this is your life. This is a second lease on life. And she said, I want to go back to Chicago. I want to open a baby store. And I stopped everything else for that.
Uh-huh.
No more acting. And I was exclusive with an agency in Chicago that had even contacted me just before coming back saying, if you ever come back to Chicago.
Right.
And I didn't even, they found out I was here like a year after I was here, and then that was it.
Right.
But I never did anything more.
And as we've talked about this, once you're out of the game, you're out.
You're out.
Once they forget your name, you're almost unless somebody gives you the gift of like, hey, I remember you from back in the day, you're done. And
that's what's funny. Since starting this, I had said never again, and since starting this, a lot of people have been pushing me to do voiceover.
Voiceover, right.
And I do get the occasional push back into acting. And I resisted for a long time. Then I was interviewing actually Bill Russell here, who I acted with 100 years ago, when he was just 75 and I was a young man.
70 years now.
And, he just
sorry, Bill. I apologize. We know you're only 74. So
I was throwing barbs at him online. It was awesome. Anyway, while we were talking, I said, I would be willing to kind of dip my toe back in, put my resume together, put it out there. I can't even get a nibble now. And I'm like, I was exclusive. I got a resume. Nothing.
Well, you know what?
What happens?
And, Kathleen and I have an uncle who's in the business. He's starting a theater group up in Lake Forest. And he has told me that the vibe of the Chicago scene has changed a lot. And
it's so different.
It's so different. I mean, it's vibrant, but it's a lot of, and I don't want to say it's knowing who you know, but a lot of it is you need to get in with some people any way you can to get into the list to get that. It's just tough. It's not like
it is. It's a very tough market.
Well,
and I took myself out of it.
Right. And because they're
filming more shows here, more movies,
it only makes it harder because that brings, and
I don't want to say people from other places here too.
It brings a lot of talent into town. So.
Okay, so when we moved to Minneapolis, one of the motivating factors was I was analyzing markets, and Minneapolis at the time was the 4th largest acting market.
They had a couple of
bigger fish in a smaller pond, and I soaked up a lot of work for a while, and then the big house moved, and it was like there's nothing to do. So that I was following where.
Yeah, and you've told me the story about how Rob would go in for work, and they say we want the guy that's just like Rob Southgate. I am Rob Southgate.
That was this audition. I said we're looking for in the audition. They said we're looking for a Rob Southgate type. I'm Rob Southgate.
You're not enough like him.
That's and I didn't get it.
Yep. That's fantastic.
I love that.
That is but that's Hollywood in acting in a nutshell.
Yes.
It doesn't matter. They want the type, and even though you are that person, you're not the right. You're not the right.
Yeah.
You're not.
I would always get stuff like we want a Drew Carey type. It was always somebody famous. We want a Drew Carey type. We wanted this type. We wanted that type. And when they did a Rob Southgate type, I couldn't believe it.
Sure.
And even the guys I was there with are like, oh my gosh, how do you not get this?
Exactly.
I'm going to show you how I don't get this.
Watch this.
Watch this.
Watch how I mess this up. I can't even be myself in an interview.
That's terrible.
You know that is the bad thing about that kind of, especially the visual stuff, is you look at everybody that comes up there and you always compare them to somebody else.
Yes.
Until you are the one that they are comparing to. Like
yes.
Tom Hanks was always compared to this, and this person.
Yes.
Now it's like everybody's like, oh, be like Tom Hanks.
Yes.
And that is just the way it goes.
That's just how it goes.
Because it is a copycat, and they know what sells, and they want to sell that kind of thing.
And I really don't have a desire to really get back into that.
Yeah, it's tough. So
I'm not going to get into the whole thing, but I don't think that my look is right. I mean, there's a lot of factors.
Sure.
And that's one of the things that drove this. I've always liked radio.
Uh-huh.
I've always liked talk radio. I've always liked old time radio. I've always liked just audio in general. When I first heard podcasts, it started with one of two. I either heard the One Up podcast first, which was a video game podcast, or Kevin Smith's Smodcast.
Right.
One of those was the first I heard, and I really was like, wow, this is really great. And then I started listening to Jay and Jack, who had a Lost podcast.
Right.
And I really didn't venture out of those. I listened to those three all the time. And I kept telling Martha, I was working at a university, and I'd gone back to school, and it was all business at this point. I had no aspirations to getting back into like entertainment, even though I had this creative interest. And I kept telling her, like, I think I want to do this like as a hobby. And she's like, well, if you want to do it as a hobby, that means you're going to start a business. And I was like, no. I'm just going to I want to get on a show. And of course, we know what happened.
Yes.
And it was funny because she, at the time, because my story is Martha's story too. She did not want to be on a podcast. She's like, I don't have the voice for it. I don't want to put myself out there that way. Yet she was so supportive when we started this. She's the one that said, this is what we're doing.
Right.
And you need to do it. And she's been wonderful with that. She also said, so I was on another show from another network. My partners didn't want to come back. The show had gotten canceled. The TV show that we were doing got canceled. They brought it back. It was awful, right?
Right.
And I said, okay, well, we got to finish it out. We have fans. And they're like, nope, we're out. Martha says, if we're starting this, you need a partner. I'm going to have to get over this and get on a microphone, and I'll join you. And that was it. And then we started doing stuff together, and that was where it all started. It was just the two of us sitting on our couch, holding our little MP3 player, which is sitting here between us. And the very first one we did, I recorded it and went, I don't know how to get it on the computer. And it's timely because it was a TV show. So it was like, oh, I got to figure this out like tonight. I was up all night trying to figure out how to put it on, then how to edit it. Then I was like, I don't have music. How do I do it? It was unbelievable.
Yeah,
how do you get it on iTunes? I figured it all out.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's neat. That's really how, and anybody who we've talked, I don't want to say ad nauseum, but anytime if anybody asks us how to do
nauseous.
Well, I'm just saying it's actually very easy to do. It's just everybody thinks it's like this hard thing. It's basically
totally do it.
It's basically talking into a microphone and then putting it out there for people to listen, whether it's very rough or very professionally refined. It's all good, and you got to get out there and do it. And I think it's
well, and our approach is still the same. Like we have certain tenets that we run our business by, and that we do for ourselves. And we tell everybody, you keep it clean. You can skate a line, but keep it clean so that kids can listen.
Right.
Have fun. Be a fan. If you're going to do a fan podcast, don't sit here and talk about how horrible something is.
Right.
Be a fan.
Unless it's being
be honest.
Right. Be honest.
Yep. But don't take on like American Horror Story if you hate American Horror Story.
Yeah, exactly.
I do enough said. It's rich, but you listen to our shows. We talk about what's good in it. And we will talk about what was bad, but then we're right back on like, but next week, that's how it is.
And this is how they save it. And this is how they do it. Yeah, and I think the biggest thing, I guess,
and those tenants are still here.
Whatever you do, whether it's podcasting, whether it's owning a business, whether it's doing something, whether it's performing, if you are passionate, there will be an audience for what you do.
Yes.
It may be 4 people, but that's 4 more than we're listening if you're sitting at home talking into a microphone.
That's
and then you can build on that. And I think if you have credibility and passion, people will do it. So
you talked about how just do it. And I encourage everybody, just do it. Just get You don't even need a microphone. You can talk into your computer. You can talk into your phone and record a podcast.
Right.
It's fun. It's like blogging. You got an interest. You got a passion. Go for it.
Sure.
Who's to say? And you look at ours, we've never said it's got to be perfect.
Right.
We always try to improve quality, but we're not like hung up on it. We've got 2 shows up for podcast awards right now, out of nowhere, and we didn't even try. And because of that, I've had a number of other podcasters reach out and say, next year you need to try because you're going to fill up categories.
Right.
And it's like, really? Because we really shoestring this thing.
Well, we don't put
anything
and it goes from there's some, and I'm not saying that they're like the production quality is rough or whatever. It's a little bit different to where there are some really talented people in our network that do this professionally and really button it down. It's like, it is like, I don't want to say a professional radio show, but it is like
it
that.
Is. Have you heard Radio Free Indoor?
Oh yeah.
Holy cow.
No, it's fantastic. And then the 4 of us get up here and talk for 35 minutes like a bunch of idiots. But you know what?
Like tonight, we don't even know what we're talking about.
But there was, you know what? Somebody will be out there and like what we said.
Like this show, this is terrible. You picked a really bad subject.
I did. So, it's horrible. So in terms of your geekness, you left out something that is in your past that you and Martha did that I think lends itself to this geek kind of line where you guys did a magazine.
Oh, a zine. Yeah, yeah.
So
that's an important factor.
I think that's an important factor because it got you into that was podcasting before there was podcasting.
Yeah.
I would think. So
you're
talk
right
about that.
Actually, back in the early 90s, zines were kind of a thing. There's self-published magazines. Actually, a friend of mine has become very successful at it. Successful doesn't mean financially successful,
right?
But he's like a big deal in zines now, still. And we published our own. We called it the Dead Elvis Fan Club. And then Elvis Presley Enterprises sent us a cease and desist letter after 1 issue, and we changed the name to Disgraceland. And we thought that was very clever. I still think it's clever. I think that's funny. We got international attention. 2 issues out there. We ended up on the BBC. We ended up in all these magazines. Mojo magazine wrote about us. I mean, it's really cool. When you look at that, though, because, as you get older, you start, like, reflecting on all this stuff. I kind of realized I was in, like, a garage band in high school, got into the zine thing, did indie film, like, in Minneapolis. That was really my focus. I was part of the Ice Pack, and I was trying to get into that whole, like, indie film scene. I knew a lot of those guys. When I got out of all of it, that's all gone. But then what do I go back to? Podcasting, which is the same kind of thing.
Absolutely.
It's indie, it's raw, it's new. I love it. To me, it tweaks that same thing. And now we're trying to expand into, like, we've got a YouTube channel.
Right.
And I see a lot of YouTube stuff that looks the same, but then there's some really cool stuff out there.
Sure.
And I'm looking at that going, you know what? We have a voice. We have something different to offer.
Yeah.
I hope an audience catches on to it, but we're pushing in those directions.
Yeah, we talk about it a lot because we talk a lot. We talk a lot about this, and I feel that we're partners in all of this kind of stuff. And there's a lot of exciting stuff that we're hopefully going. I hate to say
on the horizon.
That's on the horizon. That's going to happen. So I think
you don't even know, Chris. I just had a week out in the forest. Martha and I had a talk last night.
A week in the forest, which was in a camper in the Dells,
which is
not the
TV.
forest. So yeah, but I mean,
you know what? I was virtually unplugged,
right?
And I didn't talk about it. I tried to keep it cool this week because I talk about it incessantly.
You can.
And last night we're sitting there at the campfire, and I said, "Okay, I've got an idea." And Martha goes, "Thank God! How long did it take?" I knew.
Right.
And I rolled out this couple of ideas, which I haven't told you yet, and she went, "I'm on board."
Cool.
They're like big, pain in the butt. Let's add more time into my life. And ironically,
as you're going back to school to do that,
Monday,
yeah,
I hit it hard for my master's degree. So. Look out.
It's a good time to start taking out another project.
Something crazy. Wait till you hear this one.
Yeah, and I'm sure it's going to be good, and I'll be all in. So
you'll be all in. You're already included in it. I already told Martha. Nice. She's like, yeah, Chris is down.
Awesome. I'm down. I'm in for that. So, I mean, and I love how you touched about the being on the cutting edge, because in the year and a half we've been doing this, I feel that the podcast revolution has taken a big swing where it's a lot more mainstream. I mean, even radio shows, they take all their shows and put them on podcasts.
Yep.
Which basically what a podcast is, a radio show, not out over the airwaves, but over the internet.
It's a radio show that they've broken the mold on.
Yeah. And so
we break the mold constantly.
Yes. We are moldy and we break it too. So we do that, but which is good. I mean, you brought up Kevin Smith, Smodcast, which was one of the first really big ones. Mark Maron is another one who's just
Mark Maron.
Gigantic. He's so good. But there's a ton of other ones, like we talk about Night Vale.
Yeah, Night Vale's great.
I mean, it gives an outlet for creative people, just like YouTube gives a place where people that can't act or don't get acting jobs that are great actors.
Yeah,
a place.
Well, and for a while I was listening to a lot of the NPR shows,
right?
And I found that I'm not gravitating to those as much. A few of them, quite a bit, but they kind of have the same voice.
Sure.
They're a little too polished for me, and at the beginning they weren't. So other than This American Life, which is a glorious show, and Serial is very good. Invisibility is very good.
Yeah, but Serial, I mean, the first one
is great.
Like the second one, it's okay.
Yeah. I have a lot of thoughts on the second one.
I mean, it's kind of hard to catch that lightning again.
I like to find all those different things, and that's what I like with our network. So, like, when you look at the stuff I listen to, like I just listened to a show called the No Sleep Podcast. This is a really cool show. Mm-hmm. It's in its 4th season, I believe. What they do is they have a Reddit, and people submit short horror stories. They pick horror stories they like, and they have somebody read the horror story.
Nice.
And like the first episode had 2 stories on it. One was only like 7 minutes long. It's called The Midnight Man, and I haven't stopped thinking about it since, because it was the ending was the best part. The ending is fantastic, and it's not like it's just when the last line of it, you go, "Oh man, it's really good." So, but I love that. Like, that's a lot of creativity going on there. I love Black Tapes, which is kind of like X-Files, only they took the serial model. It's very serial sounding.
Sure.
And then made it fictionalized. I love like the Lost podcast, where they talked about the show Lost, but they were so fun to listen to. And now there's so many shows like that. We have a ton in our network that are like that.
Well, we did
too. And I thought those were more the style of Selfie Media Group, where we go off topic a lot. We break the mold, and we just kind of have fun. Because our whole thing is it should be personality driven.
Sure.
I don't need to hear comedians. Comedians can be okay.
Yeah.
I'd rather hear people that are entertaining, so that you feel like, hey, I'm sitting on a couch with my friend.
Yes.
And that's what we try to do here too.
Well, that's the believability.
Everybody here hates us right now.
Yeah, that's the believability and the passion.
Especially her.
Yeah. Well, it's only a little bit of hate underneath. So.
A little bit.
Just a little
bit.
Fold it in. Well, no, but it's, and I don't want to say whatever hook, because it's not the hook. That's what gets people to like what we do, I think.
Right.
And what makes, I think, us enjoyable to listen to is that we do just talk about stuff. And sometimes, you're talking about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and all of a sudden you're talking about Spider-Man and throw whatever.
You're keeping it in comic books. We go off into everything.
Yeah. Well, like League of Geeks, they're just, they're
all over the place.
They're all over the place, and that's good. So, well, no, that's cool. So we're up to there. Anything in terms of
one of the things you would ask me about, Okay, Martha told me before we did this, I had instructions because she couldn't be here tonight. I had instructions not to take charge of the interview.
You didn't, so
I'm not,
you're
right?
not, which is amazing. So,
but I do have one that you brought up that I want to bring up.
Yes, so Rob, is there anything you want to talk about?
No, well, no, because I don't know how you want to ask it. But you had mentioned to me when we were talking about doing this, you wanted a framework at about me and Molly.
Yes, and I do, and I was going to talk about that.
Yeah. So I don't know what you want to ask about that.
So number one, you're a father, you're a podcaster. Now, your daughter is very much along the lines of your interest in past. So you being geek and doing all that stuff, and like we didn't even get into you were into comic books, you were into
video games. Geeky, I was probably there.
Geeky into it.
Yeah, I am big into geek stuff.
Sure.
Even in high school, like I always joked around with my friends that I was like king of the dorks. Probably because of 16 Candles, which I was.
You were a donger. That's okay. We know.
I was very much the geek, but I was always into all that stuff, and it wasn't forced. I think it's interesting. I'd rather have something interesting than watching something over and over that's not going somewhere.
And to go off a topic, and we'll talk about Molly in a second. Isn't it cool that the stuff that we've been loving for 40 years
is now finally
cool? It took a long time. So
you know what's crazy about that? So I went through the whole superhero phase. And you'd think I'm all superheroed up. I'm really not.
Right.
I went into indie comics was really my thing. And like alternative press and all that kind of stuff. That's what I love is happening now. Like Preacher was a Vertigo book. That's a big show now. The Boys is getting made into a show. The Boys is an amazing book. Ghost World was a great movie. That's a comic book.
We'll go 20 years ago. Blade. I mean, I remember seeing Blade the first time. I was like, they actually made a comic book into a great movie. Blade was a great movie. Blade wasn't okay. It was great. Now 2 and 3, but I mean,
but 1 was great.
Yeah, 2
was great. Guillermo del Toro made that one. I love it.
I remember standing up in the theater and standing ovation for Blade when that happened.
As a kid, I had a subscription to Starlog, and the few issues that I didn't have, I went out. I got them at like flea market, so I had the whole collection. Sure. Like I was a huge dork. And Molly suit in a big bad way.
Well, she
loves it. And I keep trying to temper it. Like I don't want to force her into liking the things I like. I didn't want her to be an actress. It kind of sucks, to tell you the truth.
Well, it's a rough life because
they say things to you that no person should say to another person in auditions. If I told you the things that have been said to me, it would make you cry. It's awful.
I've been through that where it's like how could you go on an audition, say be Rob Southgate, you're Rob Southgate, and say
you don't get
you're not good enough. I mean, not that you're going to get the gig, but they can't tell you you're not Rob Southgate.
No, usually it's a lot of personal stuff where it's like, you're overweight, or I was flat out told I was ugly a couple of times. Sure. Like, well, we're not looking for somebody
as ugly as you,
or you're the ugly guy in this scene. And I'm like, what? Great. Love it. Really, that's brutal. That's brutal. So I didn't want that for her, but she's driven towards it. She loves it. And here's the thing that's killing me. She's really good at podcasting.
She is. Well,
she's really good at it, and she's nice.
And Peg, to talk about your granddaughter in a very favorable way, she is one hell of a talented 8-year-old, and she doesn't act like she's 8. She's 8 going on 500.
Yeah.
I mean, she is amazing. She's, I've seen her in a couple of things. She's really good at acting.
She is good at acting.
And she will be great when she puts more, puts more time into it. She's a very good 8-year-old actress.
Yeah.
And just act her.
And she's asking for like an agent and stuff. I'm not doing that.
Right.
Because I don't want her to get stuck being a child actor.
Right.
Because she is good, and that could happen. She's too good for that to happen.
Yes.
You know what? If this is going to be your life and you're interested in doing this, she keeps saying she wants to be an artist. And we keep showing her that art can be everything. Creativity can be everything.
Yeah.
You're creative here. You make food. That is creative, man.
Sure.
And I love that. And yet you're really good at podcasting. You're a creative guy. And we'd like her to see that it can be all these things.
It could be anything. And that, and one thing in today's society, especially, it isn't just like you're an actor, you're a comedian, you're a songwriter. it's everything. I mean, it's transferred over to food. It's transferred over to making beer. It's transferred over to pastries, to everything.
Go for it and
coffee.
Be creative.
We talked about that a
passion. Yeah, we did a coffee show.
We did a coffee show, and I mean, and that's kind of cool. And as a father, it's got to be amazing for you to sit there and do it. I mean,
it's amazing.
When we met, and you're like, Molly is the youngest host of a podcast on iTunes.
Yeah,
that's really impressive. And seeing her when we go to conventions and the people
like her owning the room,
and like when we talk to Robert Englund, right?
Yeah.
When we talk to him, and he's just like, "Oh my gosh!" and they were very interested.
He wanted nothing to do with us.
Nothing to do with us, but he wanted to talk
all about Molly.
But it wasn't even about Molly being a cute kid, which she is.
No.
It was like Molly was interesting, engaging, asked him tough questions. It wasn't like, "Oh, I love you." It's like, no, it's like, "Why do you do this?" and what's going on with that.
Yeah. Well, the greatest one was we set up an interview. First, we were denied, and then he came back. Somebody came back and said he wants this interview, and it was what's his name? Timothy Oliphant. Not Oliphant. Timothy.
Yes,
Amundsen.
Amundsen, yes.
Timothy Amundsen.
That was unbelievable.
Because we did a Gallivant podcast,
right.
and he's King Richard on it. Molly loves King Richard. We had requested, we got denied. All of a sudden, they come back and they want it. So he wanted an interview with her. And he ended up singing with her.
Right.
He loved it. And afterwards, he was like, this was great. So then after this interview, and the interview is a lot of fun, right? I'm walking through the con, and the guy who played Baymax in Big Hero 6 is standing there. And I walk up to him, and I'm like, oh, hey, we have mutual friends, and we got talking, and he was really cool. Once he realized I wasn't some creep, and I'm like, no, I know this guy and this guy. He's like, oh, okay. And then I go, well, you were in the room. My daughter was interviewing Timothy, and he goes, is Molly your daughter? I go, yeah. And he goes, oh my gosh, that's all we heard about this whole week was that he was interviewing Molly. He goes, oh, he loves your daughter. And I was like, really? He's like, oh my gosh. He goes, you're so talented. And he's like talking to her and everything. And I'm like, my glory days are over before anything started.
Sure.
She's it.
Well, I mean, I would bet that for anybody, they want to see their kids be better than them, and that's got to be fantastic. I mean, and she's really good at that stuff. It's funny, and I'm going to bring up, and she's not here, but we'll bring up this embarrassing moment. When we were at Indiana Comic-Con last year, Molly is a huge Jenna Coleman fan.
Yes.
It was her birthday, so I bought her an autograph.
Yes.
And that's the only time I've ever seen her tongue-tied. She froze. She totally just like went up there and froze. And I remember walking up to her and I said, Molly, it's okay if you talk to her. She really wants to meet you more than you want to meet her. And she was like, oh, okay. And then kind of it got a little bit better, but it was
when
pretty
she
amazing.
met, speaking of Doctor Who, when she met River Song, she was Molly was like, engaging, and boy, did she love.
Alex Kingston was fantastic.
Alex loved Molly. And then later in the day, we're walking through, and Alex is getting rushed through with her handlers. Mm-hmm. She spots Molly, pulls away from her handlers, runs up, and she goes, "Sweetie, how have you liked the con?" And they started talking again, and I'm like, "Yeah, oh my gosh." And really, when we start talking about like the trajectory of what I've done, and we're looking at Molly doing this kind of stuff, really where things are leading, and Martha and I have talked about this a lot, is I really, really prefer, I think, stepping more into a producer role.
Right.
And that type of role. Even though I really like doing these conversations, I would love to go down to one podcast that nobody listens to except you, me, Lil, and Edward. That would be great for me. And the four of us sitting in a room, that's it. And then everything else would be producing and developing shows and stuff. That would be awesome. I never need to be in front of a camera, or really on a microphone again, except here.
But we know that's not going to happen. But I mean, not at that. But
I'd be happy with that. Well, I'd be very happy with that. I'd love to see Molly just explode. And we also haven't given Martha credit. She has become a heck of a podcaster too. Yeah. I don't know how this family became so good.
But it's
they outshine me. That's for sure.
It's getting over the fear and just being genuine. If you're genuine, it's got to be good.
It's true.
And to whatever. I mean, people will predicate success on viewers and all of that stuff. It's really about being true to yourself. And if you do a good job, you can't really do anything more than that and just hope that it catches if it does.
Right.
That's all you can do.
Just be true to yourself.
Just be true to yourself.
But do it.
Yes.
Do it.
Not to channel.
But seriously, man, I do this thing on Facebook. I did a thing all about dreams and, follow your dreams. And I talk about that and get people to talk about their dreams. I did it for 30 days. It was a lot of fun.
It was.
I've started another one where I'm just putting motivational videos and stuff up because that's the next key. You got to have grit. You got to have motivation. You find those things. And once you find your motivation, then you can go for whatever it is. It doesn't have to be an artistic thing. It can be whatever.
Sure.
But that, to me, is better than anything. Our network, if I never did another thing, but I had all these people that are fulfilling their dreams, that's a life fulfilled.
Absolutely. And it's about helping others. I mean,
it is.
You need to help yourself, but if you help others, then conversely, they will help you. And it's a lot easier if there's 10 people working on a problem than just yourself.
That's right.
That's something that we lose, I think, over the line. So, well, I think we're good. Is there anything else that you want to cover?
I mean, is that it? I was thrilled. That was fun. I never get interviewed. So
exactly. I mean, I think instead of you having to be the one that drove it, I thought it would be nice to interview.
That's a little Father's Day.
It's a little Father's Day.
I think last year I interviewed my father. So
you did, yeah, and that was a great interview. So there's a lot going on. So I guess that's it for Input Junkie today on Saturday, June 18th. 2016. Thanks for listening.
Yeah, thanks, Chris.
Yeah, you're very welcome. We're doing a lot more stuff. I don't know what else. I don't know.
We don't have anything.
I don't know what else to edit. So
we got another show coming up.
Thanks for coming out to
check
the Blue
us out
Box
on
today.
our website, SouthgateMediaGroup.com. All the shows are there, and we're on iTunes and Stitcher and everything. Oh, I got one.
One more.
Support us.
Yes.
There's two ways. There's a number of ways you can do it. We have T-shirts on our site.
Yes.
We have Patreon. That is the one that's killing me.
Are we still doing the Amazon thing or not?
Yeah. If you use Amazon, there's a link on our website. Just click on that before you shop on Amazon, and when you go in, it puts a cookie on your computer. So for the next 24 hours, anything you buy, we get a tiny percentage of.
It doesn't cost you anything.
It doesn't cost you anything.
It doesn't cost you a thing. It's just
which
a percentage.
Is a great way to support us.
Sure.
But the Patreon thing is so good. It helps buy equipment. Like we need to get GoPros or something. Yes. And doing Patreon, even like $1 a month, that's going to add up.
Sure.
And right now we're at $3, so we really need a few people doing this.
If we can get 5 million people to give us 50 cents a month, then we'll be great.
Oh, it'd be amazing.
It'll be amazing. No, but if you guys want to help out, support
buy a roll
support us in our art, absolutely, that would be great.
Yeah, that would be great because that's really what Patreon is supporting the artist. And when we have our stuff on there, that's really what we're trying to do is be able to do more.
We're not looking to live fancy lifestyles, just looking to live.
Nope, so, it's not cement ponds.
That's right. So,
all right.
Thank you. Have a good evening, and we'll be back with more.